A Flourish writer believes in the power of her story, the gospel made alive as a declaration to this generation. She cultivates the courage to dream, write, and publish the story inside her. Welcome to Flourish Writers. Welcome to Flourish Writers. I'm Mindy Kiker, and thrilled to be with you here today with our special guest, Tawny Johnson. Tawny, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We are pleased to get to have a conversation with you because literary agents are a mysterious creature.
We are.
And we need to get inside your brains and understand what is ticking there so that we can create these beautiful, life-giving relationships between authors and agents that I know is possible. And I have heard such good things about you from my dear friend and fellow author, Asharita Chuchu.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Asharita actually recommended you to us and said, oh, you have to talk to Tawny. We have such a great thing going.
We do. We do. Yeah.
So Tawny, where are you chatting to us from today? What part of the world?
I am from my hometown of Portland, Oregon, born and bred here in Portland.
Awesome.
And we're having a beautiful day. It's usually raining, but it's a beautiful day.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sorry that you have to be indoors doing a video, but maybe you can pop back out afterwards. So we are curious how you came about to become a literary agent.
Well, it actually is a really interesting story, but I started in the industry, in the kind of Christian publishing retail industry in 1979. I started as a part-time clerk at a Christian bookstore and then became full-time, and then it was a chain of 10 Christian bookstores. And I became a manager and then a regional manager and then was in the offices for doing advertising and marketing for the entire chain. We were also owned by a publishing house, Multnomah Press at the time. So I was asked to make the jump from retail to publishing. So I was the assistant to the publisher and then also did marketing and advertising for Multnomah as well as their international rights, book rights. So then the company was sold, and it was at that time that I was starting a family. So I raised a family, went back to school, got my master's, came out of it. My kids were out of school, and I just wanted to get back into publishing. That was my heart. I had been doing it for 15 years. It had a tremendous impact on my life, reading books of my spiritual life, and having had so much experience. So I connected with Don Jacobson, who owns DC Jacobson Associates, which is the agency I work for. He was a colleague of mine at Multnomah, and heard that he was heading up an agency. And so I joined their team. And it has been tremendously helpful and useful for my clients that I have this kind of 360-degree view of the publishing industry, from sitting in pub board meetings to actually selling a book over the shelf. So it has come in quite handy that I can help my clients and kind of give them this full scope of view of the entire process.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you can just see the Lord guiding your path from a very young age.
Yes, yeah. And I have loved books ever since I was a little girl, came to Christ through reading a memoir. So it's had a huge impact in my life. So for me as an agent, not only to just acquire books and acquire authors and establish that relationship, but foundationally, it's about acquiring books that will have an impact on people, because I know how important it was to my life.
Amen. And I think that's what we're all really trying to keep our focus on. It's like you want to have a vision, but your vision needs to stay tuned into what the Lord is going to do through that book. Not just, I need a contract, I need a deal, I need to sell $1 million or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
That's good. So do you have a specialization? Do literary agents kind of niche themselves?
They do when they can. For me, I just acquire nonfiction. I don't acquire fiction. simply because I have a degree in English literature. I love fiction, but I felt like I had to choose one so that I could really concentrate on one type of genre. So I acquire nonfiction and keep the fiction to people who know what they're doing.
That's a good plan.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people here watching today who might be at different stages of their journey. Some are maybe not even thinking about agents yet. Some are starting to, maybe some have an agent, it's not working. I don't know, you know, we could have a variety of people at different stages. But what do you recommend? When should a writer start looking for an agent? When does that come into their path, growth as a writer?
Well, let me, when I speak around workshops all over the country, and this is one of the things I say about, there's a misconception of what a literary agent does. And so this is what I say. A lot of people think that a literary agent is similar to a travel agent. You have all these plans, you have all these ideas, and you want to give it to somebody and they're going to take you where you want to go. That sounds kind of reasonable, but it's actually a little more like an attorney, where an agent doesn't take, an attorney doesn't take a case unless they know they're going to win it. So there is a responsibility that the author has to provide agents with what it takes for an agent to sell a book to a publisher. So let me go over just really quick. At DCJ, we call it the 3 C's. So as a writer, you'll need to know, do I have these 3 C's? The first C is concept. Is it a strong concept? A strong felt need? I don't know how many acquisition editors have asked me, what's the takeaway of this book? What is this book about? So is the concept strong? Do you feel, do you hear people talking about it? Is it kind of something that people are interested in? The second C is craft. Are you a good writer? Just because you write doesn't mean you're a good writer. We continue to develop as writers. Never feel like you're finished. It is a craft. Just because I can hammer a nail doesn't mean I can build a house. So writing is discipline and it's a craft. So are you a good writer? And are you continuing to build those skills? And the third C is kind of that dirty word, platform, or we call crowd. How is your platform? Are you developing your platform? When I was in publishing in the 80s and 90s, I mean, gone are the days where you can walk into a publishing house with your manuscript, they take it, they market it, and you go home and sit and hope you get a royalty check. Publishing houses do marketing. They market your book, but they do what they do best. They have a sales team, they have catalog, they have distribution, but they also rely on the author. How are you as an author going to connect with your sphere of influence to promote and sell your book? So I guess for answering your question is when, if I were a writer, would I look for an agent? When I kind of have those things in place, that's what an agent is looking for.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And why would somebody choose to go without an agent?
Yeah. Well, obviously the advantage of having an agent is that an agent works on your behalf on a lot of different levels. Publishing can be really tough to navigate. New authors and even older authors, it's hard to even know what the questions are to ask. And so a good agent will help you navigate and come alongside you and navigate you through the process. They'll help you develop a proposal. If it's an idea that the agent really wants and signs you on as a client, they'll help you through the process of refining the proposal. They'll pitch it to publishing houses that they've got relationships with, that they know what they're looking for. And then if you get an offer and or offers, they negotiate the contract. They will help you through the process of someone to bounce off cover designs, the publishing house's marketing plan. They can work on your behalf and leave you to do what you do best, and that's write the book.
Okay, so I know some people will get, well, they'll think, I'm going to go solo. But I mean, obviously, as an agent, you think there's value in having an agent.
Well, I'm going to be honest. There are some books that I feel are better off, like self-published, because they have a great particular segment of the market that they are connecting with, and they'll sell a lot of books. As far as going alone and signing a contract with an acquisition editor at a publishing house, you can go ahead and do that. It's just a little, it's kind of almost insurance for you when you connect with a good agent that is sold on you, sold on your idea, that's going to help you. I partner with my clients. I don't just check them off the list and move on.
Yeah.
I partner and invest in them for the long haul. And I think that's invaluable for a writer.
Yeah, awesome. So we've got somebody who decides, I want an agent, I'm at that stage, I really need this relationship, I'm ready to start approaching, I've got my ducks in a row, my 3 C's are secure. So how do they begin? How do they find an agent?
Yeah. Well, I think I have 3 suggestions I can give. First, I think that it's valuable for writers to go to writers' conferences, connect with other writers. At writers' conferences, they have opportunities to have 15-minute meetings with agents and or acquisition editors from publishing houses. They can get feedback, free feedback. I know sometimes it can be terrifying to sit across from an agent, but it's really helpful to get their feedback. You can talk to them about their approach to us. And to me, it's all about the relationship, how you feel with this person who's going to be in the trenches with you. So that's really good to be able to meet with them one-on-one, even if you're just kind of in the market of searching for an agent. Second, I would talk to other authors. If you have other authors, friends of yours, acquaintances or whatever, I'd talk to them about, do you like your agent? Anything that they know about maybe their friends that have agents that are good or bad or indifferent. Also, if you want to just start right out of the gate, a lot of times I'll suggest that if there are books that you really like and you like their author and you like the publishing house, how the book looks, how they sound, go to the acknowledgement page. Many authors will acknowledge their agents. And sometimes that's a great clue to find, that's kind of a good lead for me. I'm going to maybe pursue that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And then you give some words of kind of warning, words of advice about how to approach an agent, how to approach an agency or an agent. In terms of, every agent or agency has their communication criteria up front, like for cold calls.
Sure.
You need to do your research. So can you speak to that a little bit of just
when you're at the moment of a proposal or a query letter, anything like that, really do your homework when you're ready to send those out to prospective agents, if that's what you're looking for an agent. Make sure you do your homework. Check out their websites. Not every agency takes query letters. They may only take proposals. I only look at proposals simply because I'm just trained to look at proposals. I have all the information I need to make an assessment whether it's something that I want to acquire or not. Some websites will say they take queries and not proposals. And if you get an affirmative about your query, then you can send in your proposal. So if we say, no queries, but only proposals, and you send me a query, I'll probably delete it because all I'm doing is reading, and I only read proposals. So you want to avoid that delete button.
Yes. Amen.
So do your homework. Just don't assume that everybody requires the same thing.
Yeah. There are 3 terms that I think it would be helpful if you could break down just a little bit, just to make sure everybody understands what you're talking about. And that's query letter,
Mm-hmm.
1 page, and proposal. Could
Right.
you just...
Yeah, real briefly, a query letter is basically, and you can have templates on the online, but it's basically it's saying, hey, this is my idea. Basically, do you think it's something that you're interested in as an agent? And if so, I can give you send in my manuscript, or so it's almost kind of like a teaser and kind of a first page to find out if I'm interested in that particular subject. The one sheet, I've usually seen one sheets at writers conferences when authors will give that to me. It's really a basic one sheet that usually is maybe a 1 sentence, a paragraph summary, maybe a vision for the book, and a little bio. And it's just a really quick snapshot for me to kind of know who I'm going to be talking to, or know who that person is, and a little bit about what they're submitting. And then a book proposal is a pretty hefty beast. It can include anything from the summary to table of contents, chapter summaries, promotional ideas, what is your platform, a list of endorsers. So it's a really hefty document, but for me, it just tells me everything I need to know. So,
okay, thank you very much. That's helpful. And could you you work mostly with book proposals, so we'll focus on book proposals for the purposes of this conversation. Mm-hmm. So could you just tell us what elements to pay attention to in that book proposal so that we can avoid that delete key and have the best chance of getting a positive response? Yeah. What do you want to see in that book proposal?
A couple of things. One of the things you want me to say as an agent, because we read so many proposals a week, is you want me to kind of stop in my tracks and make me think, you want to hear me say in my mind, wow, that's really intriguing. I want to know more. That's what you want me to say. Because an agent reads your book proposal before they read 1 word of your manuscript. So you have to capture an agent before they even read 1 word of your sample chapters. So you want me to, having been in the publishing industry for so long, nothing has not been written. But it's the way it's written, it's your voice, a lot of different things. So we know nothing hasn't been written, but we're listening for perhaps a unique perspective, a new voice, something that will make it kind of stand out.
Okay. I know when I first read Anne Voskamp, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was just so different. It was almost like poetry. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so I would guess, not by no means am I suggesting that we all need to write like Anne Voskamp. I'm just using that as an example of how I was so smitten when I first engaged her prose. Mm-hmm. And so really you're wanting to find people being their authentic selves that in some way is offering something new to these topics that Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And we as agents read so many of those that we're listening, and we can tell if I'm hearing your authentic voice. Wow. And so, or if it's forced, or if an author is trying to be a writer they're not, a voice that they're not. Wow. We want to hear your unique voice. Because although there hasn't been anything new written under the sun, your voice is unique. And so we're listening to that. We're listening for that.
So we didn't talk about this specifically before, Tawny, but that to me is it's such an important thing. You know, I think every writer is actually looking for that themselves as well. And you have walked with so many writers, and I'm sure you've seen them kind of unfurl, kind of the blossom, the little bud open or coming out of their shell. Do you have any, like, is there I don't know if it's advice or just how can we nurture ourselves so that can happen, or how?
Yeah, it's good to have some kind of a writing partner or whatever that can be invested in you. When a lot of times when I'm working with authors, I'm working with one right now that she's holding back, and she has a great voice. She has great things to say. And so I'm nurturing her to say, when you say this, what are you meaning? Unpack that in your own voice. And so to have someone come alongside you and ask those questions, agents like myself, I'm not like, you should do it this way or you should do that. My job is to free a writer up to write from their authentic self and their voice. And when that happens, it's magic. It's beautiful.
And just as an author, it feels like dancing and singing and
flying,
climbing to the mountaintop. You know, it's like,
yeah, yeah.
That was me. That's what I wanted to say. I wasn't copying anybody. I wasn't impostering anybody. It was me and the Lord. And I would guess that really comes from that process that we're all going through of just trying to find our authentic self, even down in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can have someone that can ask you questions and kind of coax that out of you. I don't have the answers for my writers. My writers and my authors are the only ones who know those answers, but I can help them think deeper and on a deeper level so that they can express that. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and that should be encouraging to writers, because what we're actually seeking is to free you up to write the way you were meant to write. So.
Oh, Tawny, that's that's so exciting. You know, my sister is a spiritual director, and that reminds me of just what her relationship with her directees is. It's very much about that person who just asks those questions and asks you to ponder and reflect and maybe go a little deeper than you otherwise might when you're just kind of tending to the trivia and the utilitarian needs of life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it can be, hopefully that is very encouraging for writers, that we want to hear your voice. We don't want to hear somebody else's voice. We want to hear your voice, and we can tell.
That's awesome. That also makes me think of Jesus's instruction that we love ourselves. Well, you know, it really is thinking, I like myself, and other people are going to like that real person too. Why not let her out?
Well, and that's what's so exciting about being an agent, because when I catch a vision for someone's work and then help to cultivate that, and then you pass that vision on to a publishing house, which passes it on to a reader, I'm just a little one link in a chain, but it's an exciting acquirement and a handoff.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So back to these pesky book proposals.
Yes.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see? I mean, we all know this is a very important document. What do we inadvertently do as authors, as writers, that just screams, I'm a novice, I don't know what I'm doing?
Right. Well, I think one of the things that screams novice is when it says to describe your book or comparable titles, there's a section in the proposal, like what books are out there that appeal to the same target market that you're writing for. One of the worst things you can write is there's no other book like mine. Nothing touches it. And that's simply not true. And so when agents see that, they're like, oh, yikes. And what they're really asking for, what we're really asking for is how does yours, not play by play that it's similar, but what are the type of books that your same target reader are, that it appeals to, and what makes yours similar to them, and what makes your book different from them. And on a book proposal, sometimes it can feel like these are trick questions, but they're really not. Only you know your book. And agents and acquisition editors want that information from you so that we can make a full assessment if it's something that we want to acquire. Secondly, I think that one of the most important things on a book proposal is to identify your target reader. Don't say every Christian in the world, that's my target reader. A target reader, don't make it really broad. A lot of times you feel like you should make it broad,
Yeah. So
showing the publisher has this huge appeal. Publishers are usually saying, hey, I need a book for a millennial. I'm looking for a older women's devotional. Or, I mean, they're very specific. So we usually suggest a kind of a, for the most part, a 10-year age range, 20 to 30. You know, don't say 18 to 55. An 18-year-old reader is a very different reader than a 55-year-old. So make it narrow, make it very specific, and really flesh that target reader out. How, you know, what types of books do they read? How often do they go to church? What are they interested in? What part of season of life are they? Once you get that target reader down, I always suggest then you start your proposal, because you think of your title. Is this title gonna appeal to my target reader? Comparable titles. What books is that target market interested in right now? So it really helps to make, once you get that down, it helps make that book proposal not only concise, but very cohesive, and it all ties together.
And knowing who your reader is something that takes time.
Yes.
It's hard for new authors. I know it's taken us, just in writing with Flourish, it's taken a couple of years, you know, to just, that's one of the advantages of building a platform. You know, I really don't think of it as a dirty word, because it helps you to engage.
Absolutely.
With you learn who they are. You learn what keeps them up at night. What are they worried about? What are they concerned about? What are the issues going on in their lives? What are the kinds of topics that you talk about that just they respond to? There's like a resonance. And one of the benefits of creating that platform is you really do get to know your reader, and you can write very specifically about who they are and what their biggest struggles are right now. You can even do surveys.
Yeah, right. Well, and I also suggest, you know, on dcjacobson.com, you can download a template for a book proposal, or anywhere online. And if I were a new writer and I know that I wasn't quite there yet, I'm maybe a year and a half out to putting it all out there, I would download a book proposal, and I would just kind of, you know, kind of fill it out haphazardly. And then it's going to tell me the things I still don't know. Yes. Do I really know my target reader? Do I really know my competition? And that's really going to help you in the next year and a half to then be able to really try to flesh that out as you create your book proposal you'll send out.
And, you know, to be honest, I think book proposals are fabulous. I love them because it forces you to be clear on what this dang book is that you're writing.
Exactly.
I would recommend, do not do too much writing until you've got that book proposal, because we've done it both ways at FlourishWriters. And I can say that when we've really dug into that book proposal and engaged with it up front, we've come out with a much better product.
Yeah, I don't know how many times, you know, when I acquire an author, then we go through our book proposal process, which takes back and forth, at least 2 months. We're pretty hardcore. We're known for our book proposals. I don't know how many times my authors have said, I am a better author at the, you know, this was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was harder than writing my chapter samples, but I am a better author now because I know what this book is about. I know who my reader is. It's really, really helpful when you begin the process.
Yes. And it actually can shape your content, and it can reveal maybe aspects of your topic that you didn't think you were going to write about, that then you might even move that more front and center than you anticipated.
Yeah, we had an author that they felt like the focus was on this, and so she sent it to 2 different kinds of target markets, and they said, I had no idea that this resonated with them and not this. And so it can be really helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tawny, that's so inspiring.
Oh, good.
So do you have like a manuscript wish list? Are there things that you're kind of hearing in the ether? We need more books on this, or?
That's a $42,000 question. But I did kind of think about that. And I had visited a very well-known publishing house last week and sat around the table with probably 15 acquisition editors and asked the same questions to them, because those are the acquisition editors are who I pitch to.
Yes.
And I kind of heard the same thing. And the resounding response was from women who said, we've had a lot of books on kind of knowing your unique self and kind of the hey girl books, that kind. And they said, we would love to move past that and go a little deeper for women's books.
Hallelujah.
I know. So, and there was a resounding amen around the table.
I'm cheering.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things
awesome.
that myself and other acquisition editors would love to see. Would love to see great devotionals for women, and perhaps thinking of specific target audiences, like moms,
like issues,
or issues or something like that. Those are really something that we kind of don't see a lot of. You'd think we would, but we don't.
And can I just ask you to tease out that idea of going deeper a little bit more? Like when they say that, you know, we know we're supposed to love ourselves, be your true self, and that kind of thing. But now, what did you get a sense of what going deeper means?
Well, that's what we're wanting to see. People,
the authors can bring it.
Yeah, and we hear women saying exactly what you're saying. Yeah, we know this, we get it. 5 years ago, we needed to hear it, and we kept hearing it. And now, what does that look like uniquely to each woman? One of the things that I'm seeing a little bit as a response to this is, to some, it looks like, okay, now the next step is linking arms with other women in kind of a mentoring type of a thing, or a community type of a thing, finding commonality and strength and community in other women. I'm hearing a lot about multi-generational between women and older women and younger women, and not just in a church setting, but in a women to women business, in Christian ministry, kind of a parachurch type of thing, anything of linking arms with other women and it being expressed in that way. So interesting. Yeah. So I think my answer would be of how is that going to be played? It's not going to play out all the same way, but how does knowing who you are now play out? And I think that that's a lot of different things, and I would love to see lots of those different things.
Awesome. So people can
start writing.
Start writing. And I would think the sense that I get is that, it's good to look at the trends. It's almost like, Holy Spirit, what are you doing? What are
Right.
you stirring in the waters right now? What is it for 2019, for our generation and beyond? And sort of having that forward-looking vision. And part of that is tapping into just what you hear and what you see around you. But in order to be authentic with that, you're wanting to stay grounded in who God created you to be. Because I think there's a temptation for authors to sort of chase the next shiny object in terms of topics. But just like you've looked at your life and you've seen your trajectory, the Lord building this path for you. I think each of us as authors need to really keep our feet firmly grounded on the rock of our salvation.
Absolutely.
And keep our ear tuned to what we hear going on, but also say, okay, God, how do I fit into this? And really getting that lead from Him.
Well, and what has He always placed into your heart? What is that kind of thing that you've always wanted to write about or express about? You were too timid, or you were whatever. Bring that out in your writing, because people want to hear it. It may be a book and it may not, but even the exercise of doing that is really important for us.
Yes. Oh, Tawny, I want to hug you. This has been so inspiring, and I think for our viewers, ladies, I know this has probably given you some hope, a breath of fresh air, thinking that there's a place for me. Hallelujah, there certainly is. At FlourishWriters, we say that every woman has a story, every person really, but we focus on women, has a story to tell. And we are each an integral component of writing the gospel for this generation.
Absolutely.
And so your message is just resonating with my heart.
Oh, good. I'm glad. And I hope it's been inspiring for the audience as well. Just keep writing it. And it's a part of creating, which is a part of God. God is the ultimate creator. And we are expressing it in that way. And it's a noble and it's a noble cause. And so I encourage you to keep writing.
Amen. Thanks, Tawny.
You bet. Bye-bye.